Visiting the Maya area. General information. There are literally hundreds of Maya sites, of varying size and importance, distributed among 5 nation-states: Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. It will take decades, perhaps a lifetime, to visit all of them. The interested traveler will have to make a balance between budget and available time before deciding on which ones to explore. Those with only a few weeks at their disposal should probably concentrate on the largest and most accessible sites, and it is these that usually have the best local accommodation. For more adventurous travelers, however, willing to put up with less than luxurious lodging, which might consist of a hammock slung in a thatched hut, there is the opportunity to explore jungle-shrouded ruins, which few other tourists ever see. When is the best time to go? Although one can travel at any time of the year in the Maya area, it should be remembered that in the eastern Mesoamerica there are 2 strongly marked seasons. The dry season begins in late November and lasts until the coming of the rains in late May, and it is during that time that the most organized archaeological tours take place. Some travel agencies believe that the optimal time is from November through January into early February, when daytime temperatures are relatively cool. But potential visitors should be aware that during these months, cold northers may occasionally sweep down from Texas, bringing gray skies and often rain to the Yucatan Peninsula. As the dry season progresses, daytime temperatures increase for many veteran visitors to the Maya cities. The least attractive months are April and May. When the thermometer reaches a maximum, smoke and haze from the burning milpas obscure the sun, many trees lose their leaves, and, at least in Yucatan, the countryside is brown and sere. Actually, the rainy season, in spite of the prevailing high humidity, has its advantages. There are far fewer fellow tourists. Seed ticks, a plague in the off-the-beaten-track Yucatecan sites during the dry months, are almost totally absent, and there is a fresh greenness of vegetation that enhances the beauty of the ancient ruins. Except in the southeastern part of the lowlands, the rain itself usually lasts for only a few hours each day, generally in the afternoon or at night, so the mornings can be bright and sunny. There is a downside here, too. Backcountry roads and trails can become impossibly muddy and often impassable, even to 4-wheeled vehicles, and biting insects, especially mosquitoes, require constant application of repellent. Even though these are the tropics, and light clothing is recommended for daytime wear, nights can be chilly at any time of year, above all in the highlands of Guatemala and Chiapas, where freezing temperatures are not unknown in the winter months, so the traveler should always be armed with a sweater. Superior quality hiking shoes, preferably waterproof, are recommended, and hats and other sun protection should be the rule. The sun's rays can be extremely strong and even dangerous at midday in most ruins. And keep in mind that even in the dry months, it can rain at unexpected moments. Medical advice can be found in any good travel guide to Mexico and Central America. The most common complaint afflicting not only tyros, but also seasoned archaeologists, is the ubiquitous tourista traveler's diarrhea, which can make an otherwise enjoyable trip a misery. Prevention is imperative here. Under no circumstances should one drink any water other than what comes in sealed bottles or which has been boiled at least 20 minutes. Ice is equally treacherous, and one should avoid salads, uncooked vegetables and garnishes, and the skins of unpeeled fruits. The good news is that most cases of turista clear themselves up in a few days. Transportation is remarkably good over most of the Maya area. Mexico in particular has good all-weather roads with excellent bus services between major cities. For those visitors with ample pocketbooks, car rental gives a great deal of flexibility and the ability to cover many more sites than would be possible by public transportation. Some parts of the lowlands, in particular the Patesh Batun area, lack road access, and the travel may be by more primitive means, such as mules or horses, dugout canoes, or by foot. Should one hire a guide, one of the advantages of an organized tour is that one's group is almost always accompanied by a professional archaeologist or art historian, well versed in Maya culture history and, optimally, even in Maya hieroglyphic writing. Locally hired guides, on the other hand, are usually best avoided. In general, they have little or no training and may well relay information that has no basis in fact. In all fairness, however, there are some exceptions. The guides at Palenque and Copan, for example, are far better prepared and up-to-date than those at most other sites. The true aficionado of Maya culture would do best by reading as much as possible about the ancient Maya beforehand, and by attending one of the one of the Maya hieroglyphic weekends or week-long seminars now given in several American cities, such as the March meetings at the University of Texas in Austin. Good site maps for the major Maya cities are available in various publications, including final reports. It is always a good idea to have Xerox copies of these in hand when exploring a particular ruin. In the more remote ruins, which may not be kept open by clearing, it may be wise to carry a pocket compass along with the map, as well as a bottle of purified water. The must-see sites. Every professional Mayanist and every seasoned Maya traveler has his or her own favorite Maya ruins. Those most favored not only are bigger than most of the others, but also possess outstanding architecture and or a wealth of well-preserved sculpture. 6 appear on almost everyone's list. These are Palenque, Yaxchilan, Uxmal, and Chichen Itza in Mexico, Tikal in Guatemala, and Copan in Honduras. No one who has failed to see all of these can really be said to know the Maya area. A determined traveler could probably visit all within a 3-week period, although each requires at least 3 days to know well. There are, of course, dozens of quote-unquote lesser sites, some of which may be even larger than some of the above giants. Calakmul in Campeche and El Mirador in northern Guatemala come to mind. But often, these are sometimes so hard to get to, or so lacking in above-the-ground attractions, that only the most dedicated Maya buffs would find it worth the difficulties which must be overcome to visit them. The Pu'uk sites. The jumping-off point for Uxmal and other sites in the Pu'uk is Merida, one of Mexico's more pleasant provincial capitals, with good hotels and a most interesting archaeological museum. Uxmal, with its magnificent terminal classic architecture, lies about an hour south of Merida, along the main highway to Campeche. Buildings like its wonderful governor's palace and nunnery quadrangle inspired Frank Lloyd Wright and other architects of our own age, and are not to be missed. Those wishing to explore not only Uxmal but Caba, Sail, and Labna can visit these sites easily by car, but many more remote Pu'uk sites required a 4-wheeled vehicle. While in the area, no Maya enthusiast should overlook Lotun Cave, which now has electric illumination. In this case, a local guide familiar with the cavern is a good idea. Chichen Itza and the Eastern Peninsula. At least 3 days are required to do justice to Chichen Itza, an enormous and complex city which is still poorly understood. Easily reached from Merida via a virtual superhighway and equally accessible to tourists from Yucatan's Miami Beach, the resort of Cancun, it is sometimes seems inundated with tourists, yet its sheer size makes it possible to get away from the crowds. Here is a site which has sculptures and reliefs in enormous profusion, all belonging to the terminal classic and post-classic periods. Its ball court is the largest in Mesoamerica, and the austere Castillo Pyramid and the sacred cenote, rich in history, are very impressive indeed. Visitors should also not miss Ek Balam and its remarkable stuccos, some 33 miles northeast of Chichen. There are late post-classic sites all along the east coast, some of them almost minuscule. One of the most visited, perhaps too much so, is Little Tulum, spectacularly perched on a cliff above the blue Caribbean. Sadly, it is now being loved to death by tour and cruise groups. Less thronged with tourists is the inland city of Colba, set among a series of beautiful lakes. Crossing the base of the Yucatan Peninsula is an all-weather highway which gives access to several impressive Rio Bec sites such as Xpuhil, Becan, and Chicana, as well as a very early late pre-classic or beginning early classic pyramid at Cohunlich with large stucco masks of Mayan gods. These can all be visited in a single day, although if one wishes to venture further afield, such as to Rio Bec itself, more time and a degree of stamina are necessary. Palenque and Tonina. If one could see only one Maya site, many are convinced that Palenque should be it. The lush forest setting, with views out over the coastal plain, the delicate architecture, and the beauty of its bas-reliefs and stuccos are all enhanced by the detailed historical background that modern scholars have provided for this great city. At least 2 to 4 days are required to appreciate it, although one could easily spend a week here. One should not miss the beautiful cross group, the palace, and a visit to Pakal the Great's tomb. There are a number of good hotels in the vicinity, and there is a superb and up-to-date regional museum at the site. The ruins of Tonina, currently under excavation, are accessible by car over a paved road from Ocosingo, a town reached from the highway between Palenque and Tuxtla Gutierrez, the capital of Chiapas. Rich in late classic three-dimensional sculpture, Tonina has a recently discovered stucco relief illustrating episodes in the Maya epic, the Popol Vuh. There is an excellent local museum. Yaxchilan and Bonampak. The easiest way to visit Yaxchilan and Bonampak is by renting a light plane in Palenque and via Hermosa, although some visitors now travel overland by a road which is promised to be passable even during the wet season. Yaxchilan is much the largest of the two, a late classic city arranged on a group of low hills and ridges above the Usumacinta River. There is much sculpture still left at the site. Bonampak is famed for the wonderful wall paintings contained in one small building, although inept cleaning and restoration and deterioration due to the elements have tragically rendered these two but a shadow of what they once were. Yaxchilan, incidentally, is one of several Usumacinta sites which can be visited through a trip down the river on inflatable rafts, but since the river forms the border between Mexico and Guatemala, much depends on the political situation in these countries. As of 2004, it was still a dangerous region, especially on the Chiapas side, but security conditions may have improved. Guatemala, the highlands and Pacific coast. The largest museum in Guatemala City is the Museo Nacional de Arqueología y Etnología, in which many of the treasures excavated at the country's Maya sites are housed. The visitor should not, however, miss the far more up-to-date museums at the Universidad Francisco Marroquín, the Museo Ixchel, which concentrates on indigenous costume and textiles, and the Museo Popol Vuh, which has splendid and well-exhibited pre-conquest objects. On the western outskirts of the city in its own park is what remains of the once huge site of Camino Huyu, but there is little to see other than mounds. However, in the part of the site near the Tikal Futuro skyscraper, there is the Museo Miraflores, which provides an excellent introduction to the pre-classic and classic history of the site. Apart from the breathtaking Lake Atitlan, fringed with Maya towns and villages, the highland traveler should see one or all of the great lake post-classic capitals, Iximche, Utatlan, and Mixco Viejo, quite accessible by car. A day trip down to Escuintla and the compact Cochumalhuapa area is a highly advised side trip. The more important sites are located on coffee and/or cotton fincas, and the headquarters of each finca usually has a collection of sculptures. If one visits the Finca El Baú on Sunday morning, one may see Maya shamans conducting ceremonies before the ancient carvings, while on the Pacific Coast Plain, be prepared for torrid daytime temperatures. The Peten. Tikal is reached by air from Guatemala City, most visitors staying in or near the Peten capital. Flores, site of the Itza island capital of Tayasal, they are then bussed up to the ruins. During the dry season, one can also drive to Flores from the Belize border. To properly appreciate this great and ancient city, with its towering temple pyramids, one should budget at least 3 days. Not the least of its attractions is the surrounding tropical forest with its wealth of birds and animals. The traveler should also not miss the local Museo Sylvanus G. Morley, which has on display many fine objects excavated at Tikal over the past decades. There are around 10 other major classic sites in the northern Peten, such as Uaxactun, but other than Uaxactun, these are usually difficult to reach and may require travel by jeep, mule, or foot over trails which can be extremely muddy at times. Only the most determined enthusiasts should attempt the journey. Somewhat more accessible are Maya ruins in the southwestern Peten. The base for their exploration is Sayasche, a Ladino frontier town with very basic accommodation. To reach these, one must hire an outboard-powered dugout in Sayasche. There is a certain amount of overland hiking from wherever the boat puts into shore. Cebal is a very large ruined city on the Rio Pasión, upriver from Sayasche, which was excavated and partially restored by Harvard University. There are still several important stela there in situ. One can gain access to the Peteshpatun sites to the south and southwest of Sayache by boat, but it is a considerable hike over an often muddy trail to reach Dos Pilas, the largest of these sites. Potential visitors should also be warned that one has to bring in camping gear, and that many hundreds of landless peasants have illegally moved into this supposedly protected park area following the signing of the Guatemalan Peace Accords in 1995. Belize. Reached only in the dry season by a long and very rough dirt road, Caracol, the largest site in Belize, lies on the western edge of the Maya Mountains. It has 20 major plazas surrounded by temples, a few of which have been restored. Most of its carved monuments have been removed to the University Museum in Philadelphia and to the Archaeology Museum in Belmopan, Belize's capital. So far, its environment and historical heritage are concerned, Belize is in some ways the most progressive country in the region, with a far-sighted, ongoing archaeological program. The two main sites to see here are Altuna, a modest-sized classic center 35 miles north of Belize City along a paved highway, and Xunantunich, a far larger center on the Guatemalan border, near the modern town of Benque Viejo. Neither has noteworthy stone monuments, but Xunantunich is distinguished by some important ornate stucco facades decorating a large temple pyramid. Recommended rating: Andrew Coe. Archaeological Mexico, A Traveler's Guide to Ancient Cities and Sacred Sites. 2nd edition, Emeryville, 2001. Joyce Kelly, An Archaeological Guide to Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Norman, 1993. An Archaeological Guide to Northern Central America. Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Norman, Oklahoma, 1996.